All right, everyone, and we are live. Hey, everyone. It's good to see you. I know personally I've been on a social media cleanse. Chris, he had a little bit of a break himself, and we've actually been kind of bunking with Elena during our break. And
Adult
so
summer camp.
Exactly. We've been spending nights over on Elena's channel during our breaks from social media. Welcome back to our channel. Welcome back to KC Reacts Live. I do wish that we were returning under better circumstances. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And we are coming together this evening to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, a journey of faith, family, and freedom. We have a number of clips. We encourage those watching, please, as we move forward, make a comment. Let us know how Charlie Kirk influenced you, what he meant to you. Did he inspire you? Or had you not really heard of him prior, or you kind of only had seen a clip here and there, and since his passing, since his assassination, you've delved in to find out who this man was and the great influence he had. Let us know in the comments as we go forward. With that, we are going to start. We are going to spend a little bit of time on the shooter, not much. We're basically covering bulletin points, and only because the left has unfortunately decided to go extra deranged and try to convince the world that the assassin is a MAGA conservative individual. So we're only going to spend a brief moment on that because this is, after all, about Charlie Kirk. So with that, let's get into it. All right, so here we have the basic bulletin points. I'm going to read them off quick, and then we're going to move on to the next image. His name, Tyler Robinson, 22, Washington, Utah. He grew up in a conservative Mormon family. He was considered smart, quiet, and shy. He won the presidential scholarship. However, he dropped out of Utah State for Dixie Technical College. We're getting a little bit of staticky noise. Chris, I'm not sure if that might be yours. He became more political over the past couple of years, his family stated. He actually became much more extreme. He was in a romantic relationship with his trans roommates. So a man who identifies as a woman. His trans boyfriend was a Biden supporter. On the shell casings were certain slogans: "Hey fascist, catch." Notice his bulges, and apparently what I didn't know is a furry thing, like O lowercase W-O. What's this? It's furry lingo. Oh Bella, I always butcher this one. Chris, can you do it? I always butcher when I do this one.
Yeah, it's Oh Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao Ciao. And it's an anti-fascist chant that was popularized in Italy. And I also understand, for whatever reason, I'm not on TikTok, but it's evidently taken on TikTok, I'm imagining, among the left.
Yep. And then if you read this, you are gay, LMAO. And quite recently, the investigation has widened to probe whether pro-trans online groups knew in advance. And from what I last heard, it's likely they did. There were communications that apparently are coming to light. So that is where we are. Like I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time here. We're actually going to jump to our next image. Then I'm going to go to Elena and Chris for them to put any input here. So this is the main reason that I personally did want to spend a brief moment, is because right here is the first image I remember being falsified and put out there, where they were trying to claim that this individual, this monster, this evil individual was in fact a Trump supporter, that he was MAGA. And as you can see, there's the Democrat leftist lie, and there's the reality. And since this time, they've tried other routes. Well, his parents are conservative, so he must be too. I'm someone who was very much strong Democrat, and my parents, while they weren't strongly political, definitely had conservative values. People are acting like families can't be mixed politically speaking. Yes, they can. So quickly, so we can move on, I'm going to throw it to these two amazing people. First, Elena, what do you want to say in regards to all this?
Um, you know what's bothering me? Obviously, all the darkness and the hatred, the celebration is really of Charlie's death, and the calling for more violence that we're seeing is really. I'll admit it's getting to me because it's really messing with my mind, trying to wrap my head around how to coexist with these people. As far as all the lies like this, I used to think that the people on the left who were indoctrinated or who hated Donald Trump were just lazy or uneducated. And that's why they didn't know the truth. And now I realize that they not only are, I mean, are they just, there are so many of them producing lies and saying things that, and I see people who I know are intelligent enough to know it's a lie, sharing the lie anyway. Like it's this evil, this evil, I must destroy my enemy, honesty, integrity does not matter, the truth doesn't matter, reality doesn't matter, goodness and righteousness aren't even on their radar. And that really troubles me, that I was naive enough to think that they were just being lazy or dumb, but actually they are being deliberately deceptive and hateful, even more to an even greater extent than I thought, in even in higher numbers. And it makes me absolutely sick to watch this happening. And the good news is that more and more people are waking up because of this and realizing exactly how depraved they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. God bless. Chris, can Chris hear me? I know, Elena, he's been able to hear you, but not me. Oh, well, folks, Chris will be right back in. We're having a little bit of technical issues there, but I do want to go to the comments quick. I got, yo, Kevin, it's Cosimo. Well, welcome. Of course, we got A Perillo here. Welcome. Love to have you guys. And to reiterate, because I see we have a few more people watching, as we go through this stream, please put in the comments your thoughts about Charlie Kirk, what he meant to you, and you know where you see us moving forward, because I think that's an important conversation to have, because right here we got to stick with the reality, right? We got to fight the Democrat leftist lie, and we got to stick with the reality, because they're going to continue to push this more and more, and it's something that we got to continue to fight against. Elena, is there anything further you want to expand upon that? I'm sure you've been seeing a lot of this craziness. Like I said, just the claim that, well, his parents were conservative, so he must of course be conservative. Even referencing in regards to he's Mormon, so that then he must be as well.
They're grasping at straws. They don't want to. They don't want to face the truth. And again, all they do is lie and deflect. And it's sad because, you know, Kelly in the comments says, I think some of them are truly brainwashed though, and I didn't mean to imply that they aren't, because there are. I don't think it's just some. I think it's a great many who are brainwashed, but even when you present them with facts, they'll continue to spread the lie. So they're brainwashed and they're continuing to lie. And you're absolutely right there. And it's just troubling because now they've brainwashed young people into being murderers and celebrating murderers, like they did with Luigi Mangione. And I don't know why we should be surprised by this reaction at all after we saw them celebrating Mangione.
Yeah. Chris, do you have anything to say in regards to what we see happening with the lies around this, and on the left, on the part of Democrats, trying to convince us that this is a hardcore conservative?
Well, yeah, in the past couple of days, I've seen a little bit less of the opportunistic Democrats trying to turn this guy somehow into a Trump supporter. I think that you know what they're really trying to do now is talk about the gun control. They're still continuing about that. And they're doing a really good job if you pay attention to mainstream media, the CNNs, NBCs, CBSs, ABCs, all that type of stuff. Not really talking too much about the trans connection, which I found interesting. But if you go to Newsmax, Fox News, stuff like that, you'll see it. Um, Let me see. One last thing. Um, I always kind of thought that it was sort of interesting, the quiet, shy types. And everybody's always
Mm,
surprised when it's the quiet, shy type that comes out to do something like this. But I'm kind of like, isn't it always them?
mm,
So I don't know. It was just kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, if it's not that he was a Trump supporter, I have seen a few things, other conspiratorial things, to
yeah,
somehow say that this was still some sort of right wing setup or anything like
yeah.
that. But I think it's been fully debunked that this guy was not a MAGA supporter, and therefore, I think everybody who is now trying to push that is kind of getting laughed at,
Yeah.
really.
So, going from one thing the Democrats and the left are trying to push to another, ladies and gentlemen, is there's been the questioning, what happens next? Does Charlie's movement, does what he created live on, or does it dissipate? Does it disappear? Now, before we get to an amazing clip, and I think y'all know what clip is coming, but before we get to that, we're going to go, of course, to the New York Times. I know I'm putting you
Right.
through some torture. And of course, here we have this from the New York Times, the opinion section, of course, columns. When Trump survived the shooting in Butler last year, he became living proof that MAGA still stands. Kirk's death, by contrast, makes it harder to look ahead and glimpse what MAGA will stand for. Carlos Lozado writes. Now, we're not going to respond to this right away. What we're going to do is we are going to give Mrs. Erica Kirk the chance to respond because I think she has a disagreement in regard when it comes to what the New York Times is saying here. So let's bring Mrs. Kirk in.
They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen. It will not die. All of us will refuse to let that happen. No one will ever forget my husband's name, and I will make sure of it. It will become stronger, bolder, louder, and greater than ever. My husband's mission will not end, not even for a moment.
And it won't end. It won't end. So I gotta say, having listened to the entire speech that she gave, wow, is that powerful? And while her words were powerful, while they were strong, I will admit every time she touched the chair, my heart sank. Something about that visual it just hits so much to the core. But I do want to quickly reference one of the comments, Vinny. Vinny says Charlie Kirk is having a great time with God in the fourth spatial dimension that we as human beings cannot see, heaven. Yeah, he most assuredly is having a great time with he's in heaven right now. He's in the Lord's embrace, that's for sure. And by the way, welcome, Vinny. Um, uh, Elena, I'm just going to put it to you. What do you have to say in response to the New York Times? I mean, the opinion piece. There's an opinion that, the future for the movement isn't so certain. But what do you have to say,
Well, the
Elena?
future of the movement isn't clear to Democrats because they're in complete denial of reality. They,
Hmm.
they are bent. They are still bent on Charlie Kirk is hateful, and he said that gays should be stoned to death, and women shouldn't be in the workplace, and black people shouldn't be pilots, and all the lies that they have told that he said that they're not. They really believe that, and they believe that by killing him, they accomplished something. So they're out of touch with reality. So I don't really give any credence to what that newspaper printed, and I can't even believe that. I shouldn't say I can't believe they printed it. Of course, I believe they printed it. It's the New York Times. What's like? When am I gonna just really accept fully the reality of how evil everybody is, and that they are never going to change. They are not going to wake up and turn around and all of a sudden become honest journalists or, moral politicians. It's not happening. Nothing's going to change. There's no uniting with these people. So as I just want to say, as far as Erica Kirk, it felt like a blood transfusion listening to her speak. She was so strong and so it just really was heartening for me. And I'm sure we'll talk about it later. The plans that she has for the funeral and for the future are more bold and more powerful than anything the left can imagine. So
Absolutely. I do want to go to the comments quick because I have to argue one little point. There has been something that's changed, and I'm going to bring up Vinny's comment here. Here he goes. In light of the Charlie tragedy, or the assassination, I have decided to join Blexit and Turning Point USA. They didn't just turn. Her voice is not just a battle cry. Charlie's echoing voice is a battle cry for sure, and so many people are picking up that battle axe. So many people are picking up that mic, and we are pushing forwards in with a voice unlike anything that's been heard in a very long time. I'll throw it to you, Chris. What do you think is the future? Do you think the New York Times is right and it's going to dwindle, or do you think they don't know what they've woken up?
Yeah, well, the MAGA movement wasn't really started by Charlie Kirk anyway, so I think that is kind of, sort of an interesting take just right off the bat. Um, you know, um, so obviously the MAGA movement's going to continue on with or without him. I think if anything, his assassination has probably strengthened it. So, you know, I think that it's solidified a lot of people. I mean, we saw that Turning Point got a request for what was it, 32,000 new chapters
yeah.
across the United States, and right now they only have like
Hmm.
900. So I mean, that's an explosion right there. I mean, and let's say only half of
Absolutely.
those people actually follow through. That's still 15,000 new chapters across the country.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, that article in the New York Times seemed a lot less like an opinion piece and more like a prayer.
Ironically, it was a
Right.
wish. It
I
was a
would still
wish.
call it a wish because most people don't pray.
I
Well,
know.
yeah,
I
that's
have to
probably
agree.
better. Yes.
It was a wish upon a star. That's basically
Hmm.
what that is. With that, I want to reference one more comment, which will help take us into the next clip. Folks, we're going to play clips. Some of these clips, one right after another. Then we're going to have a conversation just to help with the flow. And once again, please leave a comment with what Charlie Kirk meant to you and the impact he had on you. All right. So right here we have A Perillo. And what he is saying is he was the most effective mouthpiece for the average American conservative. I don't think he can be replaced by any known figures. We need someone new to come up from the masses. I will say I've been seeing a lot of people theorize about who could step in. And it's not a matter of someone replacing, it is a matter of a voice that carries on in the spirit of Charlie Kirk, but it certainly will never replace Charlie Kirk, that voice. And I would actually argue that Charlie Kirk, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, Charlie Kirk wasn't conservative in a hard way. He wasn't a hard line like, like a lot of people on the left would say. I would say he spoke to the average American in general. When he actually was able to have a conversation with the average American, I don't think it was just a matter of him speaking to the average American conservative. I think he spoke to the average American.
Well, Kevin, I also think too, just to go back to that comment real quick, I also think that his main audience obviously was supposed to be, students and, high school, college age students, that sort of thing. But it went far beyond that. I mean, almost every person my age, and I'm 47 years old, knows who Charlie Kirk
Yeah.
is. I mean, his message ended up being way broader than he probably ever anticipated it to be. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that comment there. So I agree. Yeah, but I don't think that we need to not necessarily look for an absolute replacement. I'm sure someone similar to him will come along in time, and there you go. I think the
And
best
that's
thing
what,
that we can do is just carry on his memory and his legacy.
yeah, and that's why I say that anyone who comes along will have to carry on the spirit. They're not going to replace Charlie Kirk by any means. But speaking of his voice, this is a clip. I know, Elena, you played it, but I love playing it because to me, this clip embodies so much of who Charlie was, and it also debunks so much of what the left says that Charlie Kirk was. So right here is clip 6.
Who are you? My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America. Why are you here? Because I love talking with people I disagree with. What have you done for your country? Started an organization that's now on 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist. Is it necessary? Well, considering I've been assaulted, followed, stalked, and had things thrown at me, the greatest protection I have is cameras. We record all of it so that we put on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens. Because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity. Marriages break apart when you stop talking, churches fall apart. And I think what makes this country on the verge of going to a place we don't want it to go right now is we're afraid to go to places like this and have these conversations. I'm not.
All right. So the reason I chose that clip, by the way, is I am still waiting for anyone on the left to listen to this clip, to listen to this clip and tell me how this defines a fascist. I have yet to have anyone be able to do that. And like I said, that's one of the reasons I really love this clip. So Chris, I'm gonna throw it to you. What do you think of this clip and what it says of Charlie's voice and his values?
Well, I mean, this is kind of like in a nutshell, his style. It's a great representation of his style and what he was really trained to do, which was to facilitate a conversation among opposing sides. And I'll admit, when I first started seeing clips of Charlie Kirk, like I'd heard the name for a while, but I didn't really know who he was. But then when I started finally seeing clips of him a few years back, I was like, huh. I kind of like this. And this is, I mean, when I first heard about him, I was still a Democrat and I still liked him and respected him because it was kind of like, he's wanting people to come together and talk. When I put out that video, for instance, talking about the Charlie Kirk thing, I mean, that's really what I was trying to do is just, it's like, let's talk, let's not yell at each other, let's just talk and certainly not shoot each other, and I liked what he said there about, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. And I'm sure someone like the asshole that shot him, had turned off every opposing viewpoint and was just living in a little bubble,
Mhm.
And I mean, I try not to do that. I still listen to hardcore left-wing podcasts just because I want to know what they're thinking, you know?
Hmm. So Elena, can you listen? Did you listen to this clip and hear anything that sounds like a fascist? I've listened real close to it several times.
Yeah, I love talking to people I disagree with. I mean, that just, the Washington Post put up something on Twitter, and it said about, college kids are rattled by what happened, and they're looking now to create a model for civil discourse. And I'm like, this is the model. Charlie was the model for civil discourse, and this video embodies that. We don't have, when you talk about replacing him, he is absolutely irreplaceable. There are people as smart as him. There are people as kind and level-headed as him, but I don't know anybody that's both the way he is, and politically and biblically. I mean, he just brought together so much, information and goodwill and a kind spirit that we can't replace him. So they took the model and they destroyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And on this, I actually want to go to the two comments quick. And thank you everyone for commenting. This is amazing seeing so many voices speak up. Vinny, this was one of the first clips I've seen when I was transitioning into a Republican in 2022 during the trucker protest against vaccine mandates. Vinny, I can actually say this was one of the first clips where I had heard clips by edited clips, cropped clips with Charlie Kirk before, and they annoyed me years ago. But this was one of the first clips that made me stop, pause, and actually start listening to him a little bit more. So yeah, absolutely. A Perillo says, I also never cared much at all about any celebrity. Their lives and deaths never affected me in the least. I don't understand why this one feels like losing a close friend.
Can I say something about that, Kevin? Because
Yeah, Chris,
I've been thinking a lot
I'll
about
let you.
this.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this because I feel the same way. I generally do not really give a rip. I mean, I might feel a little something like, oh, it's an end of an era or something along those lines. Say like when a Betty White died or whatever, it's like, it's kind of sad, because we won't be seeing her quirky little self all over the place anymore. And but this is a little different because I mean, yeah, Charlie was a celebrity in his own right, but it's not like a Hollywood celebrity, which really doesn't serve any purpose other than to entertain. I mean, granted, he was entertaining in some regards, but he had more substance to him than the average celebrity. He was teaching, he was engaging in debate, he was talking about his faith. There was real substance to what he was doing, and I think that allows people like the commenter to start feeling closer to the celebrity because they feel like they're really truly getting to know them. And then when they're suddenly taken away from us, I think we feel a deeper loss than the average celebrity. I think that's why the death of Charlie is hitting so many people so hard. So yeah, I've been thinking about this. I wanted to say something there.
Yeah, if I could add,
yeah, Elena, go.
Just to add to it, it's also the way he died, that he was so brutally murdered, and then you add in again all of the dark and evil things that are coming out of it. It adds a crushing, like it's soul crushing to me that this kind of evil exists, that our country is so divided. His death is is really pivotal. I think we can see that there's been like an earthquake in our country, and there is the divide is bigger than ever. And I think that that's adding to the grief a different layer and a different flavor that we're not used to. Because I'm really having a hard time with this, and every night before I go to bed, among all the other things I pray for, it's like, please just let me wake up and feel better about this tomorrow. And every day I'm still heartsick over this.
I'll admit I struggled for words, and I still do to a degree. If you two don't mind bearing with me, I actually did I did make a post that for me was able to bring those words together. And I want to read that because people, let me know if this reflects in any way or helps express, because it's the best I could put it into words. I truly haven't felt such a sinking feeling since 9/11. I just can't shake this feeling. That bullet just didn't tear through a man. It tore through an entire culture that man helped shape in both mind and spirit. That bullet was a declaration of war on the very values that built this nation. That bullet was an attack on the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That bullet was an attempt to silence not just one man, but half a nation. And this is why so many are asking themselves, why is this hitting so hard? I didn't even know him. My friends, you knew his spirit, and that's a powerful thing. Now we move forward in his name. We as a nation must pick that mic back up and continue to make sure that Charlie Kirk's voice resonates for generations to come. God bless Charlie Kirk, God bless Charlie's family, and God bless America. That was the best way I could sum up, I think, and understand and describe why it resonated with me so much. Because, yeah, I'd never met, I would love to have had the opportunity to ask Charlie Kirk a question. I was like, oh, is he coming to a college near me? I would actually, I never got the opportunity, unfortunately. And I know so many wish they did. But there was that. Why is this hitting so core? And it's because it's a death that resonated throughout. It sent a pulse throughout the nation. And also there is a video that I didn't include in this stream, and then we're going to move on to the next segment, where a woman says, why did God let it be something that was caught on camera? Why did God, he could have been shot opening his door to grab the newspaper. He could have been shot, getting into his car. He could have, whatever, if someone wanted to. And why did this happen? And she goes, I think we're seeing why. We are seeing people for who they truly are. We are seeing the good, even in people we didn't expect it from, because we may have been like, oh, they're nutters, right? We are seeing good in them, but we are also seeing the people who have demons in them and around them express themselves, and people that in many cases we never thought were that way. So there's a video clip out there where a woman basically expresses that, and it's a very powerful clip. With that, we are moving on to one of the biggest claims when it comes to Charlie Kirk, that he was just a downright homophobe. He hated us, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You and me.
He really did.
I know he just had a pile of rocks waiting for us, according to the left. So with that, we're gonna jump into a couple clips. The first one is a longer clip, ladies and gentlemen. So please bear with us. If you haven't watched it in its entirety, then check it out. Also, again, please remember to continue commenting. So here we go. Charlie Kirk, the homophobe.
Hey, Mr. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago, when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and... Oh, excuse me. Phone shut off. Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
okay.
Sure, he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position. I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative. In that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that.
That's not conservative.
And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans, that's what we're conserving. I'll get to you later, though, don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way, what would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them? I wouldn't.
Yeah, because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, like what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list.
If they are supporting open homosexuality.
So
yeah, no
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is
so. Let
why.
me ask
Are
you a question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
All right, and before we respond, we're going to jump right into the second clip, folks, because this second clip, yeah, someone said that this gave them goosebumps. This second clip, though, while this gave goosebumps and was powerful, this clip is all heart, and I just love Charlie Kirk for it. So with that, clip 8.
A gay conservative, and I just want to kind of ask you, like, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us. So, like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize, like, they do have a choice?
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the conservative movement. I don't think you should introduce yourself just based on your sexual attractions.
No, I agree. I like because
that's not who you are.
I like to be thought of as a person, and
for sure, you are a complete human being, and I'm sure you treat people well, and you're studying something. So I want to get away with this idea that you're gay anything. I just think that we have gone a long way in the negative direction in this country, where we act as if the most important part of your identity is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but politics is about addition and multiplication. I imagine you agree with a lot of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? Strong borders, strong country, and for that, we welcome you into the conservative movement.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to throw it to you guys one moment. I just want to say, so here's an experience I've had time and time again as a conservative who happens to be a homosexual, right? I have had many conversations with gays about conservatism and, well, gays on the left, right? LGBT, right? And they've blown their top when I try to talk to them about conservatism or anything like that, right? But I've also interacted with so many on the right, including conservatives who do believe that I'm living a sinful lifestyle. They don't support my marriage to my husband, but they've also treated me with the more respect than any damn leftist has. They've welcomed me into their homes. They've stood up for me. I once had an evangelical Christian when a guy was coming at me. And, I was holding my own, but she came up and she's like, "Are you okay?" Right? And this is an evangelical Christian who her personal beliefs is that she doesn't support same-sex marriage, you know, and in general, she sees homosexuality as a sin, of course. But she was there to defend me when she felt someone was coming at me. I can't say that of one single damn leftist if I was expressing a view that they didn't agree with. So, anyways, with that, I'm gonna first throw it. I'm gonna throw it to you, Chris. As a homosexual man yourself, I mean, what do you have to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, first of all, I mean, Charlie was sticking to his religious beliefs. I have no problem with that. Generally speaking, my motto is if you just leave me the f alone, I'll leave you the f alone. Don't like same sex marriage? Cool. Then don't get married to someone of the same sex. Problem solved. This is my personal situation between me and God. It affects absolutely no one else. And I think that's Charlie didn't come right out and say that, but I think especially in that first one, you kind of get the feeling that that is kind of what he thought. It's like, because he said something about like, you worry so much about what other people are doing, the personal decisions other people are making, that you're going to stand up here and make a fool of yourself, is essentially what he was saying. you know um and I kind of think that's it. So I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Kevin. I mean, I don't demand of my friends that that they accept homosexuality. I don't demand of my friends that they accept same-sex marriage or anything like that, because the thing is, chances are, and some of these very religious people are bad at doing this sometimes, but if they stood back and took a good hard look at their life, there's probably a lot of stuff about their life that I don't agree with either. So,
Mm,
and guess what? I don't really care. I don't say anything about it unless it personally affects me. I don't give one flying rip what you do with your personal life. I mean, I've known
absolutely.
straight people in open
Mm,
relationships and stuff like that. I mean, how more of a insult to the institution of marriage could you possibly have?
No.
And that's especially if you're professing to be a Christian person, and that's what I knew.
mm,
So I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, I just think that when it comes to this issue, we need to know how to just leave what is a personal decision and let people decide what
mm.
they, between them and God, what is appropriate. And I kind of get the idea that Kirk understood that. And I really appreciate that. If more people could be like Charlie Kirk, I think homosexuals would probably feel even more welcome into the Republican
Mm.
Party and the conservative movement.
I think it's because Charlie Kirk respected each individual's relationship with God and journey with God. I think he respected that so deeply. And especially as long as you're a homosexual, you're not going into a church and demanding, pride flags, which I would never do. I think that's false idol worshiping. I think he
Right.
was like, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, let me have my relationship with God. I'm not going to go into a church and tell you to not teach Leviticus or not teach that or not read that. I just want you to give me my right to have my own journey with God, and when my day comes, then I deal with God in regards to who I am. That is what
Right.
I ask of Christians. I don't ask Christians to come and celebrate or my wedding, or to bake me a
Nope.
cake. I only have one good friend who's an amazing baker, and I do demand that she bake for me. But it's usually cookies and cupcakes. Anyways, Elena, I'm gonna throw it to you. I know for Chris and I, obviously, as men who happen to be homosexual, not homosexual men or even gay men, as men who happen to be homosexuals, we have a certain perspective. Elena, what's your take on this? What does Charlie Kirk say to you here?
Well, I look at this through my own faith lens, and I am a straight white, well, the white part doesn't matter here, straight lady, Christian, very devout. I know what the Bible says, and what I go to, and the way Charlie is treating people here, is when Jesus was asked what are the most important commandments. Now you have to remember there are something like over 600 rules and laws in the Bible that we are given to live by. And he said, the first is to love your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul. And the second is to love each other as you would love yourself. And those are the most important things. Love God and love each other. And loving each other looks like this. It looks like this. It means, yes, here is what the Bible says. I trust God on, on his design and what he says, but I don't, it is not my place to not love people and be their friend and be with them and show them what Christian friendship and love looks like. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what I do. I mean, we're all friends. You are not my only gay friends. Like there's plenty,
I thought we were special, Elena.
Well, you are, but I could say that my gay friends, I'm speaking off the cuff here, but most of my gay friends actually have happier marriages than a lot of my straight friends, and I don't want to start analyzing that, but right, you're laughing, but really, it's just being a Christian means being loving to other people, and it also means telling the truth the way Charlie did. He didn't balk away from his faith. He didn't balk from from shrink away from the Bible and offend God by misspeaking on the Bible. He didn't do that. But he's loving, and a lot. There are, like, Dave Rubin, who he mentioned in that other video, was on, has been railing on Twitter, like, stop saying he hated gays. He was my friend. He was a friend to me and my husband and treated us wonderfully for years. Like, and it's just very exhausting watching people badmouth him when he was such a good guy.
Yeah, well, and just one last point on that. I mean, I think what I was getting at, and I think what I need to do to kind of wrap it up in my mind here, and hopefully the audience gets it, is I think that Charlie Kirk is a great example of a wonderful Christian person, and I think this is what I was trying to get at before: a wonderful Christian person who stays true to their beliefs, but acts like but acts in a way that and treats other people, like this young man here, in a way that isn't off-putting to us. I mean, if you're a level-headed person, so that's kind of what I think. So I wish more people, especially Christians, would follow his example, because I think that you'd see a little bit more of an explosion within the conservative movement.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, a phobia is an irrational fear or strong disdain. I don't see any irrational fear in Charlie Kirk, and I certainly don't see any disdain. So no, this man was not homophobic. So Elena, you want to add something?
I just want to say, like, I mean, there are very, very devout Christians who are combative, like that guy was, with the gay community, but there are not that many. Like my church, I'm in a Southern Baptist church that is very biblical. They speak occasionally, not all the time, occasionally about sexual morality, all the things around sexual morality, including homosexuality, promiscuity, sex outside of marriage, all the things. But none of those people are hateful at all. No. They really walk in the walk of trying to live like Jesus. So the people that you're talking about, like, if they stopped, the hateful ones, if they stopped, I don't think they would have that big of an impact, because I don't think they're making that big of an impact on the hateful.
Well, that is good, and maybe I'm just a little bit more sensitive to it, because, as you know, I've had a little bit of a run-in with that more recently, so that could be why I said that. But because you're right,
it's not.
You're right. I mean, now that I think about it, It's pretty rare that I run into it, but still, I mean, even
Yeah.
just me as just an average person, I look to Charlie Kirk and I'm like, man, I wish I could be more like him. Period.
Yeah, and while I haven't found my church, I'm actually reading the entire Bible cover to cover. I decided to do that. And I've gone to friends' churches. I haven't found one that's really, I haven't felt called by God to that church yet. It doesn't mean I'm dismissing anyone else's church. I just haven't felt called by God to any specific church. I know what I'm looking for and I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for any rainbows or pride flags or anything that I consider
Sure.
false idol worshiping. What I'm looking for is in a church, is a place I go. I hear someone read scripture and then I reflect on it. I pray to God. I work on my relationship with God. I'm not there to ask everyone, do you support that I'm a homosexual? Do you support that I'm a homosexual? No, that's not why I'm going to a church. I'm going to church to connect with God, not to socialize about who I'm attracted to. In the comments, we're not going to probably get to this comment. Though it is a good one. If we were able to get to it and look back later on, we do have to move along though. A Perillo has a genuine question. I'm going to read the question, but if we get back to it, like I said, we can focus on it. But I do want to bring it up because I think it's a good question. Genuine question. As gay men, seeing how far the pride community has fallen in the past several years, do you ever have regrets or questions regarding how we approached or implemented gay marriage? Now, the reason I'm not going to have us jump on that, but I did want to bring attention is so Chris and I can keep that in mind, that question, because that could be a whole stream in and of itself, folks. So we're going to save that. We're going to put a tack in that, we're going to pin that. And don't worry, Perillo, in the future, we will address that. But right now, we are going to move on from, is Charlie Kirk homophobic, to, of course, one of the best questions of all. Is Charlie Kirk a racist?
Yeah.
All right, we've got 2 clips. We're going to go through them both, and then we are going to respond. But let's get into it.
Black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
All right, so those were 2 brief clips. Then we're going to get into this one, and I want to discuss all of these clips as a collective. I really want to do that. So let me get to that other clip.
Charlie Kirk sent me a direct message, and I'm going to show you what it said. This is almost 6 years ago exactly now, as of this video. I had not spoken to him in person or on social media. He started the conversation. You know what he said? 3 words. You are terrific. Now, bear in mind, this is back before I was blessed with the followership I have now. I had fewer than 10,000 followers on Instagram, very small Facebook presence, wasn't even on TikTok at the time. But the fact of the matter is, this young man, this leader of Turning Point USA, reached out to me and saw something I had done. And he felt so moved that he reached out to me himself to encourage me. And then he went a step further. He invited me to the BLS, which is the Black Leadership Summit Turning Point USA was putting on in Washington, D.C. I told him, transparently, I was in between jobs and didn't have the money to fund my trip. He told me that they had scholarships available and to email him directly and he'd be able to take care of it. I did, and that's the story of how I got to be a part of the Young Black Leadership Summit, which was instrumental in springboarding me to where I am today. Now, I share that story because he didn't have to do that. And if he was a racist person, why would he do that? I'm so tired of people being besmirched by the tired liberal lie that anyone they don't like has to be some sort of racist. And I'm not immune to this. They call me racist myself. Of course, it's ridiculous on its face. But this is the nonsensical nature of your average leftist. They really want you to believe deep down Charlie Kirk hated all black people. He saw the best in everyone. He saw in me something I didn't even quite see in myself at the time. And he chose to encourage me. That is why I will literally and metaphorically pick up that mic and continue the work that he started. Because I myself and many others are tired of being slandered and maligned by individuals who have nothing to sell us but fear, panic, and lies 24/7. I had to share that story with you. I thought about keeping that to myself, but the more I see him being typecast as some sort of evil person, the more I cannot be silent, and I hope that you will not be silent as well. It is time for action like never before. It is time for voices to rise like never before, and I hope you will join me in that effort. So that is the real Charlie Kirk, the one I don't want you to know, but the one I will continue to remember and honor with my actions into the future. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully you share, and hopefully you get busy as well, because we all have microphones to pick up, and we are all Charlie Kirk.
Absolutely, hallelujah. And I want to say this, and then I want to throw it to you guys because, all right, I want to quickly reference. Let's start with the first clip, everyone, because I think that's important. I'm gonna admit something, and I'm speaking for myself here. Because of DEI culture, because of where we are in DEI culture, I'm not gonna lie. I think we're forced to ask questions, though, right? We used to years ago. I would never have thought about it. I saw a black pilot. I saw a female pilot. Okay, they're a pilot. Great. That means I'm getting somewheres. Now it is a thought. We know the industry's lower standards because of DEI. We know they push people through. We know that not the most experienced people get hired. We know, such as in college, they accept lower grades from different demographics. We know this to be true, and we have the facts. So yes, and I'm gonna take it all the way across. Because of DEI, because of the racist policy that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. If I'm on a plane now, and I think many people will speak to this, if I were to see a pilot who is black, I would wonder, are they a diversity hire? If I were to see a pilot that's a woman, I would wonder, diversity hire. If I were to see a pilot interact with a pilot that I got a strong sense is gay, I would also wonder, is this a diversity hire? And same thing, if I interacted with a pilot that I got a sense was actually born XY and they were dressing as a female, I would also wonder, is this a diversity hire and are they qualified? DEI has destroyed us. DEI has made us all question things that we never questioned before. That's just my take on it. Elena, I'm gonna throw it to you first. What do you have to say about these accusations that Charlie Kirk is a racist?
I'll add that. What Charlie, I believe, was getting at is that DEI has done more harm to blacks, to women, to any minority group. You mentioned gays, because now people are questioning their abilities and their qualifications. And Charlie's point is also, we need the best of the best when it comes to safety. You want to play DEI with your baristas at Starbucks? Have a great time. Nobody cares. Anybody can make the coffee. But we're talking about surgeons, pilots, even flight attendants. We think of them as, a lot of people think of them as, waiters and waitresses. They're not. They're safety agents that have to deal with, that have, supposedly, very extensive safety training. Air traffic controllers, doctors, nurses, pharmacists. There is no room for error. And it's bad enough that our education system stinks. Now you're picking people just so that we can have a multicultural variety and, multi-gendered variety. It makes no sense. Charlie is right. It doesn't make him a racist. It makes him, logical.
So, Chris, what's your feelings on this?
Well, I mean, of course, I don't think that Charlie Kirk was a racist. I think that he was just being honest about the situation. But you have to get into the mind of your average liberal, even, and leftist. So, I mean, this goes all the way even to moderate liberals to a certain degree.
Elena's like, no, thank you. No.
Well, no. So your average leftist, all the way even to the moderate liberals, a lot of them hear someone say that they're against DEI, and they interpret that immediately as like racism and homophobia and sexism and that sort of thing. They just immediately assume that must be what you are if you're against it. And so I know that that's where this is coming from. So I really think the way to tackle this, if someone on the left or a moderate or just a average liberal, I think the way to tackle this with them is, if they're willing to listen, which a lot of times they're not, but if they are, let them know that you truly, honestly believe that DEI is more of a harm to minority communities and that is why you're against it. It has nothing to do with any sort of phobia or hatred of, whatever minority community you're talking about. And just to take it one step further and to kind of stay in my own lane when we're talking about like homosexuality and that sort of thing, I think that DEI has done a great job of damaging the reputation of homosexuals across the country. And I mean, I can't speak for Black people and what they may think, but I'm using me as an example. I mean, because these people who ran these DEI departments and that sort of thing, I mean, what did they do? Yeah, they pushed homosexuality down people's throats who didn't necessarily want to have it pushed down their throats. Then they thought it was a great idea and somehow equated transgenderism to homosexuality, which of course people like Kevin and I find incredibly offensive. And then but then they went ahead and brought that stuff in and linked it to homosexuality through the term LGBTQIA plus. So these DEI departments have done a lot of damage to gay people, by linking us to transgenderism and making it so that, people can't avoid it if they want to. I mean, these DEI departments were putting on the pronoun days and encouraging people to use their pronouns and email signatures and all of those types of things. I mean, that type of stuff, because they so successfully linked it to the gays. I mean, we got screwed. We really, really got screwed. Our reputations got screwed.
Chris, I want to speak to something because I actually found out after getting hired to a position that I applied for within a company I was working at. I found out that the woman who was in charge of the hiring at the corporate level, she only hired for this position. She only tended to hire either women or gay men. Excuse me. And I was in that. I was so offended. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I was perfectly qualified for the job, but it was just my education made me qualified. Everything made me qualified for the job. I was so infuriated. It felt like, here it was, I found out that I got the job and I was so excited, right? I got the position. I was so excited, because I earned it. And then I found out, well, she only hires, women and homosexual men for this position. And by the way, just to give context, at the time I was studying hospitality. I'm about to be a gay cliche here. I was studying hospitality with the goal of being a wedding planner. Yes, folks, that was a goal of mine at one point. And
okay,
I know, right? By the way, in that same company, I worked in the candy department too. And one of the jobs we had was to make and pack the fudge. Trust me, there were jokes there. Anyway, sorry. But no, I applied actually for the registry department, which was a very involved job for the place I worked. The registry department was very involved, actually. And it was an experience for my education. And so I actually was annoyed. I know Elena's fully appreciting what I said earlier.
I mean, Chris is a tomato. He's dying laughing.
I know. He's as red as a tomato. So I do want to go to the comments quick, because Chris and I have discussed our views. I experienced being a diversity hire. Chris has expressed how he experienced it, his view on it as well. So Vinny said, DEI hires are risky though. I love being African American, but I do not want grading privileges through classes to become a pilot or a cop or a doctor, etc. Yeah, because that is damn dangerous.
Yeah.
To give a grading curve. There are places where you can grade on a curve. I'm sorry, those are not the areas you can grade on a damn curve. Now, Elena, before we go to the next one, I do want to say this because there's the funny thing is the left now argues for DEI, and I honestly find ways to process this argument. One of their top arguments is, well, DEI helps mostly white women, so that's why you should like it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. It's like
I also don't want a job because of my genitals. It's absolutely absurd. I want a job if I'm qualified for it. You think I'm a good culture fit, and I bring something good to the table. I am appalled at the thought of being hired just because I'm a woman. Just the way you were appalled because you being gay gave you an advantage. Give me a break. It's gross.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. It really is about the content of characters. So with that, speaking of content of character.
Wait, and I just want to add
Oh,
one more thing. I can't help it.
all right.
That mentality of, oh, you should be happy because it benefits you. That is the
Right.
most leftist, self-centered type of mentality.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Narcissism.
how
Yeah.
all the things we talked about that make it bad don't matter because it benefits me. That's disturbing.
Right. And do you know what? There's other points in history where the people doing horrific things had that exact mindset. Well, it benefits me, so why should I say anything about it? We can go back thousands of years if we have to in that discussion.
Yeah.
What
We
is
go
it?
back to the
400?
1930s.
His 1930s. 400 years, as the left likes to say. I mean, we can go there where people were like, well, it benefits me. So with that, though, we're going to go to another area of judgment of character, misjudgment of character with Charlie Kirk. So two of the clips I've seen the most referenced in regards as attacks on Charlie Kirk since his assassination. And I'm going to continue to say that because we need to say that. Sorry, I'm taking a moment here. You need to always reiterate this was an assassination. This wasn't just a murder. Yes, it was a murder, but it wasn't just a murder. It wasn't just a killing. It wasn't just an ending of a human life. This was a political assassination. This was an act of domestic terrorism. This was an assault on an entire belief system. That's what this was. That's what this is. And it's continuing in their attacks on Charlie Kirk. So the two clips are about gun deaths and empathy. I'm sure you both have probably heard people reference this. A lot of the posts I've seen celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination reference what he said about guns and what justifies guns, that number of deaths justifies it, gun ownership, and also empathy, that he was not a fan of empathy. So we're going to listen to those two clips together because I figured since they're used together so often, we just play them together and then respond to them. Please, people watching, first of all, thank you for staying with us. And also, I really want to see you in the comments on this because I want to know, what are your opinions on these two very controversial clips?
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. He would say, I feel your pain. Instead, it is to say, you're actually not in pain. So let's just very short clip. Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy, I prefer.
All right. So we'll have Chris back shortly, folks. Don't worry. I know he's been dropping in and out a little bit, but we're pushing through. We'll get him caught up to speed for sure. I just got to say this. First of all, and I have no problem taking hate for this. I have no problem taking any hate for this. So in the first brief clip, Charlie Kirk expressed that the right to bear arms, we're of course going to have deaths, and those deaths at the end of the day, they are justified in regards to keeping that right, or at least it's understandable. It's an acceptable loss. It's acceptable risk. And I'm just going to point out there are many areas where we do have this exact same logic. For example, when there's a new medicine introduced on the market that really helps people, there is the very real fact that medicine, even if it's a 1% of the population, there's a certain demographic in the population that medication is not going to mix well with, and it could even cost them their lives. And this is a consistent thing in medicine. It's a consistent thing in surgeries. There's so many things in our world, so many things that have progressed us, that we do accept that there's going to be a certain amount of loss of life. And I know that may sound cold, but it is the reality. So my question is, should we stop medical advancement because there are going to be lives unfortunately lost along the way? Yes, we should take measures to protect people, to try to minimize, but we also have to accept that there are going to be losses of life. And that is one of the things, and I'm going to seem cold when I say this, but I don't care. Freedom isn't free. And speaking of the cold, the empathy part. So I actually agree with Chris because, sorry, Chris, well, I agree with you a lot. Charlie, I actually agree with Charlie Kirk here because he made a distinction in this video. A lot of people are just playing the brief clip where he says he doesn't like empathy, but they don't play the whole thing where he says he prefers sympathy. And here's why. The definitions are actually quite different, and I know a lot of people probably would argue this point, but empathy is feeling and sharing another's emotional experience. Sympathy is feeling for them, acknowledging the pain from your perspective, which I think is more rooted in reality. I know we, especially the new ages, like to talk about being empaths. You're just hyper observant of human, of human expression. I think what's most accurate and rooted in reality is sympathy, not empathy, because once again, empathy is basically feeling and sharing another's emotional experience, meaning you actually feel their experience, right? Their emotions. While sympathy is feeling for them, acknowledging their pain, but from your own perspective, acknowledging that you can't actually feel their feelings. So with that, I know I've yammered a little bit. I forget where I am. I'm going back and forth. Elena, am I? Okay, I'll just go. Elena, go for it, Elena.
It's fine. Yeah, it's funny. I haven't really given a lot of thoughts to this empathy versus sympathy topic, but when you put it that way, the way you just described it and the way Charlie, referred to it, it really is a bunch of malarkey. And you absolutely cannot feel. But the people who want to sit in feelings all day and night, every day, and just talk about feelings all the time, it works for them to pretend that they can actually feel what somebody else feels. So that's ridiculous. As far as the gun rights go, yes, saying freedom isn't free does not sound callous to me. Freedom comes at a price. It is extremely unfortunate. We would have far fewer gun deaths if we focused on morality, decency, mental health. Even just the 10 commandments would be enough. Even if you don't believe in God, skip the God parts. The rest of them are pretty solid ways to live, things to live by. But we don't want to focus on any of that anymore. So we just want to focus on feelings. And feelings include anger and frenzy and revenge. And that's why guns are dangerous. So I agree with Charlie, and I'm sorry that hurts people's feelings. And they'll say, you've never lost anyone to gun violence. And I will say, actually, yes, I have. So I can, as somebody that has lost people to gun violence, I can say I am still an ardent supporter of the Second Amendment, because for all the reasons that you said, there is still more good that comes from guns, and that is protecting our First Amendment rights above all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that this gun control debate that has resurfaced out of the left in response to Charlie Kirk's assassination isn't surprising, but it just goes back to the absurdity of it all. I mean, ultimately, what they would really like to do is ban guns. I know that they won't admit to that, but I know that that's really what they're ultimately going for.
Mm-hmm.
No, some will admit to it, but most don't. Anyway, it's kind of like, people get murdered with knives. People get murdered with cars. People get murdered with all sorts of stuff, and you don't hear, and they like to poo-poo this, like when you bring that up to them. But the thing is like, no, if you take what you're doing to its logical conclusion, meaning you leftists, then what this really means is that we're going to heavily restrict and regulate every single thing that could possibly kill a person or injure them. Well,
Yeah, and
that
they
would
want
be
that.
virtually everything on God's green earth. So I mean, what are we going to do? Outlaw sharks? They attack people. It just gets absurd when you take it to its logical
Mm.
conclusion.
Well,
So
Chris,
a gun is a
you
tool, and tools
hmm
can be misused,
Yeah.
and there's
hmm
many tools that can be misused.
The Final Destination films just prove how much we can die from everyday things, all right? The Final
Oh, that's true.
Destination film,
Yeah,
just
there you
saying.
go.
A tanning bed, a roller coaster, I'm just saying, but we'll have them. So I do want to go to a quick comment because he is right. A. Perillo actually said, there's more before that clip where he compares it to cars, saying there's tens of thousands of car deaths each year, but we accept it because of cars' importance. It's similar with guns, gun seats and 2A. Okay, I
Probably
think
meant
that
deaths.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, gun deaths. Sorry, yeah, he did correct it down there. Gun deaths in the 2A. All right, so yeah, I didn't use that so much just because I'm aware that is the go-to is the car, and he argued that so well. Charlie did. So yeah, I think just to sum up with this segment here is that I actually can say without question, I agree. These clips don't bother me in any way. I know the left is trying to weaponize these clips, but I have a clear conscience and I fully agree. No,
Oh,
no
and
conflict
one
here.
little thing too about the empathy versus sympathy thing. I kind of want to. I just wanted to say, Kevin, I really agree with you on that. I have always thought that empathy is kind of like a I don't know, kind of an egotistical way of being. Because to sit there and say that you can feel exactly how someone else feels, you may have
Hmm.
experienced something similar, and maybe that's what you call empathy. But to say that you actually know exactly how another person feels, I mean, that's absurd. And no one can do that. We can't step into each other's heads and know.
There's
Exactly.
the theme of being self-centered, and
Yes.
it right that emerges when you think about all of this.
Right. Absolutely.
So with that, and folks, we're about to get into all things positive with Charlie. We are. I know we're going through some of those moments right now, but we're gonna get to just the beautiful grace and loving heart that was Charlie Kirk in our world. Um, so but first I want to go to this because I searched for many clips to express this for me, because obviously a lot of Democrats have since made posts condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk and all this stuff, right? But I have yet to see a single one of them condemn the ideology behind it, the ideology preached by Biden, Maxine Waters, so on and so forth, that has seeped itself down to the base, of course. So when I was looking for clips, I found this clip, and folks, tell me if this resonates with you. It resonates with still the anger I'm feeling. Let me know what you think.
I am tired of hearing people say, like Barack Obama did, like Hillary Clinton did, oh, we condemn this violence. Guess what? You can't call the President of the United States for 10 years Adolf Hitler, and you can't say that he's a fascist dictator, and you can't say that anyone who voted for Trump or advocated for him, like you, me, Riley, and Charlie Kirk, are Nazis. And then when someone tries to kill us, you can't suddenly say, oh, we condemn this violence. You caused it. Look at me right now. You caused this. When you tell people that someone is Hitler, you are telling crazy people, go kill them. And I am sick of pretending that that is anything other than what they're doing. That guy in West Palm Beach, what did he say? He was killing Trump because he believed Trump was Hitler. This is what they do, all right? This left-wing violence, it's out of control. And Charlie Kirk bore the brunt of that left-wing violence. And guess what? But for the twist of his head at the last minute, Donald Trump's head would have been blown off on live television. And that is intentional. They are lighting fires and then claiming, oh, what do you know? There's a fire there. They're doing it on purpose. MSNBC, Sean, you watch this. They were live on the air saying, one of their guys said, They put out a PR statement. He said, well, Charlie Kirk was riddled basically with hate, and when you put hate out into the world, this kind of thing happens. Oh, tough break. You get shot and killed even though you're completely innocent and all you're doing is making arguments for the betterment of the country. Tough break for your young daughter. Tough break for your son, for your lovely wife that will never get the opportunity to see you grow old with them. I am so angry. And I understand everybody out there says, well, we have to tamp down the anger. I'm not willing to do that right now because I get angrier the more I think about this, Sean. They put the wheels of motion for this in order. They did it, Sean.
All right. That resonated with me. I'm not going to lie. That resonated with me on such a deep level. Chris, I'm going to throw it to you. I mean, what do you feel when you listen to that news segment? Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, Kevin. It's like whenever we switch from us talking to the video and then back, that's when I lose audio connection. I think I've got it corrected temporarily right now. I'll probably have to go out and come back in. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Chris, I was actually going to you first. Just wondering, what's your take on this? What does what he said reflect how you feel? Because like I said earlier, I don't think that condemning the assassination is enough from Democrats and the left. They need to condemn the ideology that they've been pushing for the better part of a decade that has villainized not just conservatives, but anyone even slightly to the right of AOC.
Mm-hmm. Well, what they really need to do is just stop that tactic, and to a lesser degree, everybody could probably do with reflecting upon that, but definitely on the left for sure. I mean, that's where the real problem lies at the moment. I did see, but anyway, yeah, if they would just stop doing that, that would ultimately be helpful, especially in the media. Because the politicians can talk all day, but if the media doesn't cover, politicians who are getting radical and stuff like that, then they don't really have a voice, with the exception of social media or something like that. But still, it would definitely lessen their reach, So I mean, it would certainly encourage, I would think, politicians to tone down their rhetoric if they notice that their speeches and clips and stuff aren't getting played nationwide. But that said, the only prominent Democrat that I have seen, and I did end up verifying this, that has actually expressed some doubt in the ideology was Deborah Messing. Did either of you actually see her? And normally don't give a rip about like Hollywood celebrities.
I actually haven't heard that one. No.
Yeah,
I'll look into her. I'll look that up right after the stream.
Yeah, I went to ChatGPT and it did some deep diving into the internet and really verified it for me. But and then finally took me to her Facebook page where I saw it myself. So anyway, she did say it. But what she did say is that she felt politically homeless right now. She said that she disagreed with Charlie Kirk, but she was disgusted by the reaction from Democrats and the rest of the left.
Wow.
And when she said that she felt politically homeless at the moment, I mean, to me, that's a rational response to what we're seeing from the left. So if we could, I mean, you can disagree with Charlie Kirk all day, but if you have a response like hers, she gained a little bit of respect for me.
No, I have respect. I was not aware that she had said that, but no, respect there. Elena, what's your feeling when you watch this clip?
I agree with every single word, and we're with Chris saying that they should drop the tactic of calling us Nazis and fascists. I think that it's too embedded now. They have half the country believing it, It's not. I don't know how dropping it. I mean, it would take so long for the effects of dropping it to go into effect and actually make a cultural shift. And the people, the left, is addicted to it. They're addicted to hate. So I just don't believe that they'll drop it because they love it. They believe it, or they believe that we're hate worthy, or that we're a worthy enough opponent that you can just say anything goes in order to beat us. You know, they don't know how to play nice, and they have nothing else to go on. As we know, when you get into their platform, it's meaningless and empty and does nothing for Americans. So all they have is hate, and they're holding on to it with two hands. And it's a really, really solid illustration of the spiritual battle between good and evil that we're witnessing. This isn't about politics anymore. It's way past the point of being about, moral differences. This is good and evil. They're not going to stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Chris, you're getting a little bit more staticky, unfortunately.
I'll go out and go back in again.
All right, because then
This
we're
is
going to
weird.
just we're going to jump right into the next segment, folks. Again, thank you for those who have stayed with us. We've loved seeing your comments in there. Aprillo, I see you. Yep. So the media is currently calling the massive protests over in London a far-right rally. The heavily implied racism and all of the usual BS. Yeah, so that's one thing. This whole thing with this assassination, this horrific murder, this act of terrorism has resonated around the world, and it's definitely fed into things that have already been ongoing in other nations, especially what's going on right now in the UK. It is without question. I think there is a lot of soul searching that needs to be done. The thing is we have a lot of people that unfortunately I don't think are willing to do the soul searching, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. With that, if you guys don't have anything further to add to this, we're gonna go a little bit to the light side. Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of a laugh. Now, obviously, as everyone knows, there's been a rash of firings, in where a lot of these people who have supported an assassination are concerned. And obviously they're screaming freedom of speech and cancel culture and all that stuff, which this is the first time in all the years where I've seen the left get angry about cancel culture, really. So it is a bit humorous, although they're celebrating the murder of a good man. So I'm having trouble sympathizing with that. We're not going to focus on any individuals per se. We're just going to watch a funny clip, in my opinion, regarding these individuals and their freak out. So let's watch that quick.
So y'all got me fired from my job.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
So I lost my job.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
Fired from my fucking job. I was just fired from my job. I was just fired from my job. I was just fired from my fucking job.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
So, I was just fired from my job.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired! You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
Another one bites the dust. The cancellation of Democrats in progress.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
Meet Haley Curdell, a 911 dispatcher from Nashville, Tennessee.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
All right.
You're fired! Get out! You're fired!
All right, so this one right here, by the way, this is why I also chose this clip, because I wanted to focus in specifically on this one here, right? I'm sorry, if you are in certain professions, especially the medical profession, where you are dealing with emergency situations, and one of them could obviously be a gunshot, right? And you happen to know that the individual is conservative, and this is your view, I think you should be fired. I'm sorry, if you are in a industry, especially where you took a vow to do no harm and you're celebrating the brutal murder, assassination of anyone, then no, you should not be in that profession. And I have no problem with you suffering the consequences of that. Same with teachers, for example. I believe there was a situation in Canada where a teacher showed the actual footage of Charlie Kirk getting shot to children in their class. I forget if it was a male or female teacher, but actually showed the footage.
That's happened twice now. That's happened twice.
Yeah. Oh, it's happened twice. I wasn't aware of the other one, but I knew of the other one. So, and my mother-in-law, she actually, while I was visiting her, she showed a post of a woman she knows in the education system who was ranting against teachers losing their jobs because of this. And the blessing there was no one in her comment section, none of her friends or family were taking her side. They were like, no, because the teacher in this case that she was defending was a male teacher who not only supported this, but supported the killing of conservatives in general. And she wasn't winning with that post. So with that, Chris, I'm gonna throw it to you with this one here. I mean, are you heartbroken when someone in the medical profession gets fired after celebrating a brutal murder, an assassination?
Well, definitely not the medical profession or teaching profession, but really, I honestly don't care what profession that they're in. Because here's the thing: these are probably the same people who made posts that essentially said that Charlie Kirk had it coming. Why did he have it coming? Because words have consequences. I've heard that from the left many, 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 many times. All right. If they believe that words have consequences, well, then now their words have consequences. But they don't like it when it's turned back on them. Generally speaking, they don't like their logic being turned back on them. It makes them very uncomfortable. They like, because they like to project everything on everyone else, but not live by the same rules per se. So yeah, my heart does not go out to them. I put together a video as well today and posted it to social media, and then I'm like, and it was of a bunch of TikToks of them whining and crying about being fired and stuff. And I mean, gosh, I guess I'm a horrible person because their tears put a smile on my face. I'm sorry, but it did.
Do you need one of those leftist tear mugs? Anyways, we can reach out to the Daily Wire. Elena, is your heart breaking for any of these individuals?
For some of them, and I'll tell you why. That one skinny guy who was freaking out. I lost my job. I was screaming and pacing in his house. That was a piece of a longer clip where he was really bugging out. And I felt sorry for him, not because he lost his job. I felt sorry for him because he was completely unhinged. This is a grown adult with zero emotional control. He's been completely indoctrinated into hatred that made him put that kind of post up about celebrating Charlie's death. And then he has probably never been told no in his life about anything. And that's what happened to him. If you're not told no from when you're a baby, what's right and wrong and where your limits and your boundaries are, this is what happens. You have a grown man having a meltdown because he lost his job, probably as like a stock boy at the coffee shop. Like, this guy wasn't, a brain surgeon. And so I find that really, really sad. And it's all of our faults that we let this happen, that we let our institutions and our media be taken over by psychopaths that have indoctrinated our children. And, all the rest of these people, again, I zero empathy for them that they lost their job and are finally facing consequences. But I do feel sorry because their hearts are black and they have no sense of right or wrong. And that is a sad, sad situation.
Very true. Very
so,
true.
With that, we are going to get into pretty much all Charlie Kirk right now, okay? We're going to be very focused on him, everything from his you know, what I have down there, which I corrected, by the way. I realized I meant for it to be a journey of faith, family, and freedom. Originally, I had faith, family, and friends, which, to be honest, that works too. But we're going to get into these three right here: the faith, family, and the freedom. And part of it is, before that though, we are going to do one more humorous clip in regards to a hater of Charlie Kirk and a responder. This young woman has decided that Charlie Kirk is a fascist, and then when it comes to giving the definition, well, let's just watch.
Well, I don't know the exact definition of a fascist, so I don't know if he is or isn't a fascist. I will say that. I don't know.
Oh, that's too good. Joe Bob, that's too good. I don't know what a fascist is, but
Okay, I just had to put that out there. We're not going to focus on it much. I loved it when I saw it as I was going through material for Charlie Kirk. I was like, I love it. You know, he's joyful, and you know, it's funny, and it's just, I mean, my heart goes out to her a little bit because damn, oh, that's all over. But I mean, it's a lesson to be learned. It's a lesson. It's definitely a lesson to be learned. So with that, I want to start by the focused with oh, sorry, fascist. I thought you said fashion. Is this Project Runway? No, and that's very hateful and homophobic of you, April. Anyway, so no, we are going to move on to actually one. So one of the things that Erica Kirk said during her speech was that she had a conversation with Charlie Kirk about if he were to run for president, and one of the things he wanted to work on was the American family, was to help bring the family back. And it's not just something he wanted to do, it was something he was doing. And that is why I chose this clip. It is a little bit of a longer one, but I really feel it is worth it. It is clip 15. Oh, no, clip 16, sorry. Clip 16. And this is where he really helps bring a father and son together.
Dad and this conservative son learns a mind-blowing lesson.
Hello guys, my name is Joey. I brought my father with me. He's a very liberal father.
Our family's divided. We're divided the same way the nation is divided.
I'm conservative, by the way.
We fuss and we fight about this all the time. Will anything ever be remedied? A nation divided against itself will not stand, neither will a family divided against itself.
Why do you think your son is conservative?
I have no clue. I'll let him answer.
That's a bad answer. You know, hold on a second. You as a father should listen to your son. You shouldn't say, hold on a second.
I'll listen to him all the time.
But hold on, but then you just said you don't know.
I don't know where he went so bad. I mean, come on. It's like, I don't know where he went wrong. I don't know how he went off the rails.
Would the smarter of the two like to chime in here? Yeah.
I used to be, at one point, on my father's side. Upon doing my own research and seeing things firsthand, I've switched sides. We talk every day about politics to the point where it's divided us. And so for him to say that he does not know where I stand is...
So let me ask you, do you think that maybe he wants to believe government will do good? Maybe that's...
Of course, yes.
Now, maybe your son is going more conservative because he thinks government hasn't done a lot of good. Is that maybe a fair, charitable interpretation?
That makes relative sense.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So here's what I'll just say in closing, guys, is that never let politics get in the way of beautiful relationship between father and son. My advice first is for the son to the father, understand he comes from a different generational perspective. He thinks government is probably a good force and, you know, that we shouldn't question our institutions. Now, your son, understandably, is seeing it harder than ever to own a home. He's seen a border wide open. He's seen lies from politicians. He's seen the enrichment of the ruling class. And instead of interrupting and want to get in an edge smartly, be like, maybe my son is processing a way that I might not agree with, but he's growing up in a different circumstance than I ever would.
All right. So I think you can see why this is one of my favorite clips of Charlie, and I really think it speaks to, you know, the family. Oh, and by the way, folks, anyone worrying about Chris missing out, I do send all these clips to Chris before we do go live, so he has seen them all. So it's not like he's coming in and like, where am I? Just I wanted to clarify that. But yeah, I really, yeah, when this is what I meant by he practices what he preaches. Here we have a father and son, divided by politics. And Charlie Kirk, in this moment, is about bringing family together. And that's what he wanted to do for this nation if he would ever run for president. And I think that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Before we move on, do either of you want to make a comment about this?
I mean, it's very beautiful the way he was able to get people to understand, and that's probably why he was so effective at what he did, because that is probably the internal monologue that he had, you know. And if you can take the time to kind of maybe understand where somebody's coming from, then you could probably do a much more effective job at having a conversation with them and maybe even changing their mind.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm preparing myself because the next clip, it is an emotional one, and it's one of the emotional ones that even thinking about it hits me. I know, Chris, you know which one's coming next. Elaine about is not is not is not aware of what's coming next. But this one I chose for so many reasons, because I think it highlights, Charlie's faith in God, but it also there's a bit of a prophetic sense to it. And I say that in the sincerest sense of Charlie Kirk. It shows that, to me, it shows that the way he died, he was assassinated. We know what happened in this sense because he was totally at peace and in love and in good with God. And this just highlights that belief that Charlie's okay. Here we go, clip 17.
Seconds left to live. I'm dying from a gunshot wound. But what would you actually want to tell me if I have 30 seconds left to live? Boy, you got 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, you're about to meet eternal judgment. And there's only one way that you can get bailed out of that. And it's not all the good things you did or the moral scorecard. It's whether or not you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And that's the only thing that's going to matter. And so you got 10 seconds left. You're dying from a gunshot wound. And you ask the question, who is Jesus Christ? And the answer to that singular question, who is Jesus Christ, is the most important question for everyone in the audience. Not how much money you have, not how much good stuff you do. It is, who is Jesus Christ? You might say, oh, Jesus was, a teller of good tales, or Jesus was a good person, or Jesus was a historical figure. None of that's going to cut it. It's whether or not you repent and you ask Christ to come in as your Lord and Savior. That's the only thing that will save you from eternal death.
Yeah. I think you can see why I chose this clip. I think it's a powerful testament to Charlie Kirk. Is he's okay. He's he's with the Lord now, and he knew beyond question who that was, and this is him advising. Elena, I'm gonna throw it to you since obviously I didn't prepare you for this clip. Do you have anything you want to say in response before we move on?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. That, his first instinct was his faith, was to talk about salvation. And that's a beautiful thing. And this, I think, is the ultimate thing that the left really hates him for. They hate God. They hate Christians. They hate godly people. I think maybe if Charlie wasn't a Christian, he would have gotten, a little bit less hate from them. But they loved, they're always up in my grill on my posts, making fun of my faith in God, saying it's a fairy tale, and, oh, your sky daddy doesn't exist, and, whatever other insults they have, that, actually give me pause to stop and pray for them. So I love Charlie's faith, and that's what he had said he wanted to be remembered for, and he is being remembered for it.
Absolutely. Chris, do you have anything to say in response?
Yeah, I respect that, kind of. Well, let me put it this way. I would take a good Christian over, um, a good leftist any day. And I guess the reason I say that is because I know there are good leftists out there, but I just I don't think that there's just that moral grounding, and that's the thing that kind of turns me off, even if they are kind of a good person in general. Um, I'm not saying that I won't be friends with them or anything like that. Obviously, that's not the case. That's not what I'm saying. But I was going to say, if I had to pick a conversation between the two, maybe that's a better way of putting it. If I had to choose who I'm going to have a conversation with, I'm going to take that good Christian, because chances are, I mean, I may be a Jewish gay man, but chances are that good Christian, I'm going to have way more in common with them and have a much more productive conversation than I would the good leftists out there,
Mm-hmm.
because our morality is just not anywhere near aligned, and that makes the conversation very, very difficult, because we're probably not going to agree on much of anything. I mean, it's fine. Maybe I can learn something. Maybe they can learn something from me, but yeah, that's how I feel, It's
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
have way more in common with a good Christian. I just do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. With that, we're going to move on to another clip of Charlie expressing his faith. Vinny has a final thought, though. Vinny says, "Bro, bro was a nice guy who made success trying to talk to people and speak truths. We're gonna carry the torch from here. Absolutely." Um, so we have a few more clips, people, and then we're going to wrap up. These just are the final ones that really pay tribute to who Charlie Kirk was.
I share my personal faith walk with you. I gave my life to the Lord in 5th grade. It's actually a Christian Heritage Academy in the suburbs of Chicago. Many of you may have heard of it. And when I came in contact with a couple of teachers that told me that I needed to give my life to Christ, it just spoke to my heart. And every year as I have got older, my walk with Christ has strengthened and has meant more to me every single year. The gospel in 4 words is Jesus took my place. In 3 words, it's Him for me. In 2 words, it's substitutionary atonement. In 1 word, it's grace. And I try to bring that message of the gospel and also the fight for liberty to high school and college campuses all across the country. Now, everything we're going to be talking about tonight on this program is going to be gospel-centered. It's going to be about setting the captives free, free from sin, free from confusion, free from calamity, and free from darkness.
He was most assuredly a man that lived what he spoke. And I want to actually, so we're going to move on. This was some of you might know of the Whatever podcast and are not necessarily fans of it, but this was just one of the best clips I found where Charlie is speaking, and he is really speaking. Charlie is really speaking to family in this clip. It's a beautiful clip, in my opinion, and it just ended up being my favorite.
We're blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever, and my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that. That's so cute. It's honestly the most joyful thing, and I've had some pretty amazing experiences. I've been very, very blessed, very lucky, you could say, but very blessed is the word I would use. And the greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
Yeah, that was certainly one of my favorites without question. That was one of my favorites, and there were so many clips of Charlie Kirk expressing the importance of family, highlighting it, how getting married, get married, start a family. He was so family focused, and it wasn't something he genuinely wanted for America, because he wanted Americans to experience the blessing of family, and family is really a blessing. I don't have children of my own, but I have a godson who I love with all my heart. He is one of the biggest blessings in my life. Blessings are blessings, So we're gonna play the White House's video. They made a video in honor Charlie Kirk. And then we are going to go into, I have a little bit of a short prayer as we wrap up. I'm going to read that, and we're going to have Charlie on screen to as we lead out and end with that prayer. But first, here is the clip from the White House.
America, is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it? Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
And before we go into prayer, there actually is a comment. I'm not sure. I want to look this up to verify it. Not that I don't trust you, Matthew. But Matthew says, did you know the name Kirk comes from an old Nordic word for church, which is what he had wherever he went. I have to admit that's powerful. I'm gonna look that up. Like I said, not that I don't trust you, but I find that beautiful. So with that, we're going to bring up an image of Charlie Kirk, and then we are going to go into a prayer, and we're not going to come back. We're just going to end it with the amen. So while we prepare for this, Chris, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to add before we go out?
Yeah. Not really. I mean, I don't think there's much more that can really be said that I haven't already said on the show already. I just obviously this is a terrible loss, but we're gonna move on, and hopefully we'll move on stronger. So I think that's where I'm gonna leave things.
Absolutely, Elena.
Just in the uniqueness of Charlie's way on that whatever podcast, a lot of people go there and they've got this table of loose women sitting on one side, and on the other side they'll have a conservative who's just very often badgering them or pointing out all their flaws and what they're missing and what they're doing wrong. I mean, they are oftentimes living very debaucherous lives and very proud of it. And Charlie sat there and spoke to them with such grace and showed them the thing that they're not seeing in their everyday life, that, who is putting in front of them the other option of a family and building something with somebody and having a loving child run up and grab your leg when you walk in the door. I don't think, a lot of those girls are seeing that option put in front of them and explained to them so beautifully. And it was a really nice moment. And that's who he was. He always tried to point people to the light. I saw him talking to a transgender person and saying that he prayed that they could, rather than continue to try to change their body, that they could, change their mind and their heart and their soul and be comfortable with their body. He was a good man, and thank you for having me tonight.
We love having you on, Lena. And by the way, everyone, as usual in the description, all Lena's info, our info will be there as well. I'm going to get a chance. I'm going to timestamp this video. I know I haven't done it with the past few. I've been a bit lax, but this one is important to where I will be putting timestamps in this one. If they're not there at the time you're watching this, they will be there. So there will also be clips. And other things, Chris and I will be returning after this stream in October. We are taking a little bit more of a break. October 6th will be when we return. And we can't wait to have a whole new bunch of content to share with you. And of course, we're going in a whole new different direction. We're going to hit the ground running. And we're going to have more wonderful guests on. Of course, Elena will be coming back as well. But with that, Chris, do you have any
let me
final?
just say one last thing
Right.
there, just as far as like when we come back on October 2, guys, I don't want you to think that I'm going to continue disappearing and reappearing and all that type of stuff. For whatever reason, it seems like it's only when we do the show a certain way that I really have that many technical difficulties. Like when we're over on Elena's show, goes fine. So I don't but we are going to be changing things around, and I have a whole bunch of new gear and all that type of stuff, so hopefully the technical issues will also be solved going on.
We are most assuredly going to be, like so many millions others are doing, we are going to be carrying on in Charlie Kirk's honor, just like so many others throughout the country and around the world. So with that, let's go in to prayer. All right, this is a prayer for comfort and hope. God our Father, your power brings us to birth. Your providence guides our lives. And by your command, we return to dust. Lord, those who die still live in your presence. Their lives change, but do not end. I pray and hope for my family, relatives, and friends, and for all the dead known to you alone. In company with Christ, who died and now lives, may they rejoice in your kingdom, where all our tears are wiped away. Unite us together again in one family to sing your praise forever and ever. Amen. God bless Charlie Kirk. God bless his family. And of course, God bless America. Have a good night, everyone.